fortunate to be up here, have a privilege to introduce a couple that we found through death, like through building relationships. And you know what? Sometimes you see a spark and it looks good, and then just like the more you get to know a person, you see them go through things, you start to respect who they are and what they've been through, and find out just how much of a warrior they are. And what's been fun is watching them work together, watching them grow, watching them step up to hit some different challenges. And I can tell you, I know one challenge that I don't know if they're going to talk about now, but I'll tell you what we saw in them is they were in an office situation where they had a landlord, the new landlord bought a building that they were leasing, became contentious. And they were frustrated, they were scared, their business was at a point of growth, and they were just like, hey, what do we do? And they got after it, and they worked through some stuff, and there was moments that were scary to them in what they were going to have to do cash flow wise, and the commitment they were going to have to make that adjustment. But their ability to tackle it, still being scared, but being courageous with their action, kind of fired Noelle and I up as both watching them go through it, moving forward, knowing the challenge, knowing the risk they were taking, but also knowing what they were doing and being able to take it forward. It was fun. It was proud to get to know them. And it didn't just happen by accident. They've been warriors for a long time in other parts of their life. They're going to get to share some of that with you here. But tell you what, it's just been fun watching them build a business and see them moving, and excited to introduce them as up-and-coming board members. Please help me welcome Jake and Verae Joseph.
What's up, Alliance family? I'm glad I was able to steal that from Gino. This is real money, to be clear. We're going to sweep it all up. Hey, Jake and Verae Joseph out of Rio Rancho, New Mexico. We're my Albuquerque people. Well, hey, originally, I hail from a little town called Columbus, New Jersey. I didn't grow up in the same mean streets as James Coleman, wherever James is at. I was quite the opposite, a little bit of farm town. But came, when I think about it, my upbringing, seeing my parents, I've got 2 older siblings. I was the youngest of 3. And my parents, my mom and my dad, we grew up watching them run their own businesses. And it started in a daycare where us kids ended up being the janitors. So we'd sweep and mop the floors. And when you give someone my size with one of them wax or buffer things, you'll get a few holes in the wall. Yeah. Then went straight into helping my dad with his business and mowing lawns and whatnot. But nothing too crazy out of the ordinary. I know a lot of y'all talk about your businesses in 2008. So when 2008 came for us, and no one wanted to send their kids to daycare anymore, and no one wanted to pay for people to cut their lawns anymore, my parents lost everything. Watched them foreclose on their house, watched them with what they worked so hard for, and what we helped too, just in an instant, go from having everything to having nothing. Bouncing from family members' house to friends' houses, not really having a place. And for us, that's really what led us to New Mexico.
God works in mysterious ways.
I'm
Verae Joseph again, and my story, I grew up, born and raised Albuquerque, New Mexico, so I'm a proud New Mexican, but grew up with an older brother, so I have a biological brother. His name is Jacob, not Jake. That can be very confusing for some people. Grew up, parents divorced when I was little, so I never grew up having my parents together, which was just normal for me. I had a lot of friends, their parents would divorce in middle school, and it was like tragic for them. And I'm like, oh, well, my parents are happier apart than they were together. So that's how I grew up. But kind of fast forward, I played soccer my whole childhood. I don't think that I had like a terrible childhood. I was very loved by my mom, my dad, always just felt, the presence of family. But fast forward, going into 5th grade, I was in a pretty bad accident with my mom, which is kind of what took my childhood from where we were to a whole separate place. But we were driving back from a soccer tournament of my brother's, and it was my mom's friend, her in the passenger side and me in the back seat, and we were driving back through a town called Raton, New Mexico, and basically what happened is it was raining. We totaled the vehicle. We rolled the vehicle 6 times going 60 miles an hour. So for me, I was in the back seat, and I don't remember much other than my mom pulling me out of the truck. And to me, it was just an accident, but I didn't know what that accident was going to bring, for the years to follow. I was young. I recovered quickly. For my mom, though, those of you that know her, she's sharp as a tack, but she actually sustained a traumatic brain injury at that time. So that was the summer of me going into 5th grade. My mom had sustained a brain injury, very successful realtor. We had a big house, pool, all those things. But that quickly just knocked her on her butt. And, kind of fast forward from there, she was a single mom. I saw my dad every other weekend. But she lost everything. We lost the house, unfortunately, just with a brain injury and injuries and everything that happened. We actually ended up living in a homeless shelter. So my brother, my mom, and I, we were in a homeless shelter for a couple of years. And I didn't tell my dad about that because I didn't want to live with my dad. But when my dad found out, that's when I actually moved in with my dad full-time in 7th grade. So that was a big change in my life, going from living with my mom, my brother full-time, to now living with my dad, who really I had only seen on the weekends. So that was pretty big change for me.
So when we first met, I didn't realize that all that was going on. We actually met on the school bus back in 6th grade. I knew of her, didn't get to talk to each other. The house I lived in was actually a couple streets down from where she lived, and her and her brother actually crashed their go-kart into the fence that we were living in. So one day he woke up, it was broken. It was broken.
It was a hit and run.
But Marcus, is it right? Something in the Bible, like things come in threes? Does that sound about right? So like the first time I actually met her was at the pool. And for all the men out there, you gotta kind of remember this story. Like, I went with my friend, and we were supposed to bring dates, and my friend at the time brought Verae, and the woman I invited didn't show up. So I was a little bit down, but I remember being in the pool, and Verae got there, and she's in her cute little bikini, and I'm in like 7th, 8th grade. So it's kind of like, you got to remember as a guy, you kind of had to, it probably took me about 30, 45 minutes to get out of the pool because I kind of had to calm down, didn't want to embarrass myself. So that was the first one. Yes, sir. So that was the first time. Actually, that was the second time. The first time was at a talent show, and she didn't know my name, I didn't know her name, and she walked across where I was sitting, and I just saw her, and I was like, dang, she's really cute. The third time, though, that we met, she was texting her friend back and forth, and she was doing some project about the Holocaust, and my mom's Jewish, so all my friends just assumed I was Jewish, and she texted me, and she was like, hey, I need your help. She was like, this is my Jewish friend, right? And I was like, what? And then we kept going back and forth, and eventually got to talking, and then lo and behold, started dating. I think our first date was like at the park.
Yeah, we started dating, I believe it was our sophomore year of high school. So we were dating. I was playing varsity soccer. Jake was doing his thing. I was cheating off of him, getting through biology, doing all that good stuff. Some people said I was stupid. I was like, who's the stupid one? I didn't have to do any homework, and I was just passing because he let me cheat off of him. But we had been dating, and like most New Mexicans, I don't know, there's a statistic out there. New Mexico has the highest rate of teen pregnancies. So 8 months later, I found myself pregnant at 17 years old. And that was definitely a very scary time for me, right? It's scary being 17, but it's even scarier taking a pregnancy test one morning and finding out that you're pregnant, right? And so that was definitely something that, was hard for me. And I was living with my dad at the time, full-time, because again, I moved in with him 7th grade, and I was very, very terrified to tell my dad. So, like any good daughter, why tell him in person when you can tell him over the phone, right? So So you got him back.
He was on a cruise, to be clear. He was on the last day of his vacation.
Yeah, he was on the last day of his vacation. I called him, and he's telling me how good his cruise was and this and that. And I said, all right, man, that's awesome. I can't wait for you to get home. Well, hey, Dad, just want to let you know, by the way, I'm pregnant. And then he goes, what? And I said, all right, Dad, love you. I'll see you when you get home. So gave him a couple days to simmer down. But the truth of that is that, I mean, okay, put yourself in my shoes, and maybe you can, maybe for the females out there. Imagine being 17 years old, playing for the varsity soccer team, homecoming court, all of these things, and you find yourself pregnant and scared out of your mind. So I told my dad. He got back, and what really happened that when he got back, it left me emotionally damaged for quite a long time. He got back. Jake's parents, Jake had told his parents, and one of the things that they did was they decided, okay, we're going to talk about this. We're going to get a meeting together. Remind you, I wasn't living with my mom at the time, so it was my dad and Jake's parents. And one of the things that they told me that day, I remember it like it was yesterday. I walked into Jake's house, which was an unfamiliar place for me. And I walk through, and there's this big brown dining room table. And when I get there, Jake's sitting on one end of it, his parents are sitting on the other side, and my dad and I walk in. And in my head, I'm thinking, okay, they're going to help us strategize. They're going to help us, hey, what are we going to do from here? How are we going to get through this? And what ended up happening that day was I was told by both my dad and Jake's parents that I was going to get an abortion. It wasn't going to be an option for me to keep the baby, and that they were going to be generous and pay for it, and that I didn't have to worry about it. It's something that I can put behind me forever, and we never have to speak about it again, because I had college scholarships. I was throwing my life away. If we keep this a secret, if we pay for the abortion, you'll never look back, and you guys can just part your ways. And that was a very traumatic moment for me. But I just remember there, sitting at that table, and I just had this feeling from God. I don't know what it was, but I looked at them and I said, you know what? F you guys, right? Like, I'm gonna stand here. And I stood up and I told them, F you guys, I'm gonna keep this baby regardless of what you say, and I'm gonna figure out a way to do it.
Choose life! Choose life! Choose life!
So as you can imagine, it got heated at that point, right? Things got heated. And my dad being from the East Coast, and I never knew my grandfather, so I know what his relationship was with his dad. But my dad was he was an angry person. He can make a mountain out of a molehill. And I just remember at that point, he's the type of person, he doesn't want to be told, like, no, he doesn't want to be viewed as, the wrong person. So I just remember this. He was just pacing around that table, and it just so, when you're still a kid, we're 15, 16 years old. I was going in high school. I was still taking art class, and I remember, it was funny. I remember I had made this hat out of wire and paper mache. That was the art project, and I brought it home, and I just, you throw your papers everywhere, and it's sitting on this cutout in this half wall, and it was like a cowboy hat, and it said Sheriff Jake on it. So it was whatever. And he walks over, and as everything's getting heated, he grabs this thing while everyone's talking. He grabs this hat, and he slams it on the table. And he says, you guys need to understand, how are you going to raise a kid when you're still a kid yourself? And in my head, all I could think of was, why? Why now, when I needed you most, are you not there? Why? Why?
I think one of the biggest things, I don't know that we've gotten this emotional telling the story before, because there's just so much that went into it, and just the emotions of being a scared teenager and just needing your parents more than ever. And just realizing at that moment, like, we had nobody to turn to. So we got the bright ideas, and he knocked up teenager wood. We were going to run away. Screw these people. We don't need them. We're going to run away. So we planned it out, Jake and I. They had taken his phone away, didn't have any point of contact with him. I got a text one day from his friend, and we planned the whole thing. We schemed the whole thing. So we got in my Pontiac G5 that I still run appointments in this day.
Let's go.
We decided to take off to Silver City, New Mexico, to Nana's house. And so we ran away. The crazy part is we thought we were being sneaky, but when you're 17 years old, you can't have your own bank account. It's a joint bank account with your parents. So I was hungry. Baby needed to eat. So we stopped in a little town. So Silver City is about 5 hours south of us in New Mexico. And we stopped in a little town called Belen, New Mexico, and I wanted some A&W. And so we were sitting there, and we ordered, and we get a text from his mom. I know where you guys are at, and it's a black and white photo of us.
We tried finding it, I promise.
Yeah, it's a black and white photo of us, and I've got my hands in a hoodie pocket, and there's some skinny teenagers standing next to me, and it's a security screen footage of us swiping the card at A&W. So we were caught, and that was only about an hour south of us. We got caught. But we finished the drive to Silver City, and we just had a couple days. And my Nana, as grandparents did back in the day, they got married early. They had kids early, and she just told us, she was like, listen, we're gonna get through this. My mom, again, I wasn't living with her, but I had talked to her. She was like, we're gonna get through this. We're gonna figure this out, right? We're a family. We're gonna get through this. And so a couple months went by, and Jake's parents, so we were 17 years old, and Jake's parents said, you know what, I have nothing left here in New Mexico. There's nothing for me to be here for anymore. And so they left. Jake was 16 years old, and his parents moved back to the East Coast. And through the state of New Mexico, he was actually deemed homeless because he had no parents to be with. And that's when he moved in with my mom and I, and that's when I moved out of my dad's house.
And I don't know where Jeff is, because I know he helps us a lot with this. Like, stuff keeps coming up, like new things we forget about. Some things we know now that we didn't even know before. We just learned something like a few months ago about this whole situation. Like, guys, it got crazy. Like, my mom was threatening to charge Verae with statutory rape. Yeah. Like, y'all gotta be crazy if you think this lady tried raping me. Like, she did.
I give up.
We started learning new things. Like we were hanging out with my father-in-law, and I love Jason. He's helped me in so many ways. And Jason, he's telling us, he's like, God, we didn't know this, and he said, my mom had called Verae's dad and threatened. They said, we're taking Jake back to New York with us. Like, he doesn't, but he's leaving New Mexico. We're taking him, and he's never going to see you guys are going to have to raise that child. And I love my father-in-law, and definitely before I even knew that, but the fact that, we had people in our corner fighting for us. We had that support, and that's important in life when you guys are going through, because everyone has their own story. That's the thing we know. This is ours. But what I want everyone to really think about it, like your story, everyone's got one. I know you do. And just that was huge for me. So like the people in your corner, the people that are there to support you. Sam and Amanda taking me in when I was 16 years old and I didn't have anywhere to go. I wish they were here. Amanda's got a broken leg. She's doing all right. But it's so important. Like, you're going to have those naysayers and those dream stealers. And then you're also going to have those folks that got your back. Yeah. That are there to support you. And Sam and Amanda, they've been a rock in my life. And I owe them forever.
Absolutely. So fast forward. So 17 years old. We had our baby. I don't know if you guys can see this. Can you guys? It'll come up. Oh, whoops.
This is the wrong one.
This is the wrong slide. It's okay. We'll get pictures up here in a bit.
Yeah. I think it's the other slide.
Yeah, other slide.
We can pull that up. I didn't even notice it.
We can teach you how to achieve financial victory.
Yes, ma'am.
But fast forward, so we had our daughter, Raina, 17 years old. We weren't old enough to move out on our own. So again, thank God for my mom and Sam because they let us live there while we were getting on our feet. We turned 18 years old. We moved out. 19 years old, sounds crazy again to some people, but we decided, hey, we should have another baby. We didn't want Raina to grow up as an only child, right? So that's one thing that I knew is I knew my brother was my best friend growing up, and I wanted to give our daughter the opportunity to have that. So summer of 2015, we actually, we had moved out, gotten pregnant with our younger daughter. And that was a scary road for us as well. Our younger daughter, she was a planned pregnancy. I remember going to the doctor's office and them saying, yes, you're pregnant. Okay, we're going to schedule you to come back in. And so when I got scheduled to come back in, it was for, I think it was a 9-week checkup. And when I got there, I could just tell something was wrong. The doctor pulled me in and she was like, okay, we're going to take you from here. We're going to send you to the high risk unit or whatever it was. And she was doing the ultrasound and she was like, well, I hate to tell you guys this, you are pregnant, but unfortunately there's no heartbeat. They said that, it happens a lot. It's just considered fetal heart failure and that I was going to have to miscarry the baby. And so they had suggested to Jake and I, hey, the easiest way to do this is we can give you, I don't know if it was a pill, I don't know what it was. We can give you some type of medicine that'll help you miscarry quicker so you don't have to go through this in a few weeks because prolonging is only going to make things worse. I just remember at that moment just asking God for clarity, and Jake and I, we said, I'm not going to take this medicine right now. I'm going to go home. I'm going to just, I'm going to give it a few days to think about everything. And thank God I did, because I went back to that hospital a week later and they said, okay, we're going to do this ultrasound. And on this ultrasound was a perfectly healthy 12-week heartbeat. It just goes to show, we have a story written for us, right? Now that was a scary moment in our pregnancy, but it definitely wasn't like the last scary moment. So they went from saying she had fetal heart failure to saying that she was shunting blood to her brain and that there's no way she's going to make it through the pregnancy, and that I was considered a high-risk pregnancy. I was going to the doctor, I think I was there 4 days a week by the time I was like 12 weeks on. And long story short, though, they induced me early. She came out a month early, and she was 6 pounds, 0 ounces, and a healthy baby girl, right? So the only heart condition that she's had up until this point, she was born with an arrhythmia. I think that's what it's called, right? And something like that, where your heart beats. But she's outgrown it. She's got a murmur. They've outgrown those. Both the girls have heart murmurs, but other than that, we have a healthy baby girl. We have a healthy family. So I'd love to show some pictures if they're able to get that. But just goes to show, hey, God has a plan for our life, and I don't know what that plan is for you. I don't know exactly what His plan is for Jake and I, but I know that we were put on this earth to do things together. Yes. I know that him and his family in 2008, when they lost everything, that wasn't a coincidence that they ended up in Albuquerque, New Mexico. It wasn't a coincidence that my mom ended up, we ended up in that really bad car accident and me living with my dad, because had those things never happened, we would have never been brought together, right? So we always have to look at the positive in life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, and let us know if those things get switched over. We get those pictures, but fast forward. We've got our 2 baby girls. We'll pull some of those up. Oh, okay, perfect. Thank you, guys. But fast forward. We family of 4. Got to start making money, right? So first job ever, worked Pizza Hut. I had all the time in the world, but no money. Then we decided to jump into business of our own, being entrepreneurs. We started this drop shipping thing, and then realized we didn't have enough capital for that. So then I went into the movies, and I worked in the movies for about 5 years. Wasn't terrible. Made about $85,000 a year, working my butt off 6 days, 7 days a week. supporting the family. Verae was working and going to school as well. So, just almost hitting the six-figure mark, which is something that we always wanted to accomplish. And so we got married May of 2017, got married, and then purchased our first home shortly after, right?
Woo!
Oh, okay, here we go. Now we got it. So we'll back up. So here's some pictures. I was starting to grow out the mustache. And
that top left picture is homecoming sophomore year.
Yeah. And that was graduation, so we still graduated. That's a picture of our family starting. There's Reina laying down there. And I don't know if I told Verae I was going to say this, but guys, when we think of our own stories, when we think of the naysayers, we got to take a stand. And that's where, hey, if I could go back in time, I would do things differently, truthfully, because we were looking for pictures, and it hurts me so bad knowing that we don't have any pictures of Verae being pregnant because she was ashamed. There was so much judgment and so many people looking down on her that she refused to allow a picture to be taken of her. And that hurts me, and it hurts my daughter, because our older daughter, Reina, she's never going to see a picture of her mom pregnant with her. And what a happy time, right? Right? What a happy time to be. So.
Got a lot of pictures of the second one, though.
Yeah. So, here we got. Let's see. We'll go to the next one. So these are pictures both of our girls. This is us on our wedding day and doing some hiking in Carlsbad Caverns. That's the first house we bought. That was one of our first days of school, and so we just kind of started going through, and 2018 came around, end of 2018, and our good family friend Jared Gonzalez introduced the Alliance to us. Showed us a way where we could make both the money and have the time to be a family together and do what we wanted to do. That was the biggest thing, is we knew how important it was being so young, not really getting to live out, our youth. We knew that, hey, we're going to do it with our kids. There's no reason why not. So we always had that drive, financial freedom, having the time. So we started working in the business, and right away, I was fired up when I saw Noelle Leventovich with her hair on fire. She was showing the plan in Albuquerque. The $500 excited me.
Yeah.
And what excited me more was the fact that I could build a business, because that showed me I could help other people with this, and I could do whatever I wanted, wherever, whenever, as I could build that type of business income. So that's what we started doing. And if you look in this picture all the way on the right with the two girls in front of our house, so there's those two windows on the right, and then there's the two windows in the middle. That was actually our first home office. That was our spare bedroom. And I moved took the closet doors off, threw a desk in there, and had the chart, the agent levels and the Alaska chart in there. And I just remember this is where we started working and grinding, doing it, talking to 40, 50 people a week about the opportunity, inviting them in. And the story goes, my dad, he had come over. He had actually driven all the way over from the East Coast to come stay with us. And I was in there, I was working, I was doing interviews, talking to people. And he was kind of coming in and out of the house, in and out of the house. He was working on something. And I had a minute to where I was in between calls. And he comes in there and he says, "Hey, Jake, you got a minute?" And I said, "Yeah, sure. What's up, Dad? What's going on?" And at this point, it's taken us a lot. That took us a lot to allow my dad to be in our house. And he comes and he sits down and he says, "What do you think you're doing?" I said, What do you mean I'm working?" And he said, "No, you're talking to these young kids, you're lying to them." And I said, "Dad, what are you talking about?" He says, you're having these conversations with these people, telling them that they can get rich doing what you're doing. You're lying to them. What do you think you're doing? You're not going to make any money in this. Why did you quit the movies? Why would you give up that security for your family? What do you think you're doing? And it just all started coming. It just started coming back. Why now?
Right.
When I needed to most. When I take a leap to make a difference for my family.
So, as anybody can guess, in the line I am, I told him to get the fuck out of my house. to New Jersey. He'd only been there 24 hours. But just in this business, guys, like, we're going to have our ups and downs, right? I'm like, all right, so you're going to come to my house and you're going to tell, like, okay, I was at your house at first, but now you're at my house. So this is my house. But no, so being in this business, we're going to have our ups and downs, right? And maybe you're different than Jake and I. God, I hope you are, because, man, we needed, and we still need so much self-development. We needed so much work on our skill set, right? When Jake and I came into this business, it was not easy. I mean, we saw the $500. We were getting excited. We saw the bubbles being drawn. You hire one person. And we thought to ourselves, we can do this. Yeah. We just need help. And so 2019 was our first year in this business. And if you guys read our other talk, it was not an overnight success for Jake and I. We left a six-figure, between the two of us, 6 figures. And our first year in this business, not because of the system, but because of our skill set, we went from making 6 figures down to $38,000 that first year. And at that moment, I remember it was Christmas of 2019. We did not even have money to put a gift under the tree for our girls. And we called Joseph and we were in tears. We said, something has got to give. We were spending about, I think at that point, about $400, $500 a week on leads. We would book 40 appointments and close 2 or 3 of them. Like, God, if you have somebody like that on your team, like, if they're willing to do the work with them, because thank God Joseph was willing to work with us. And Joseph he dug in there with us, and he was like, we got to get you better at your skill set. We got to get you better at your skill set. But just having that support system with Joseph and Venus at that time, it just absolutely meant everything to us, because we wanted to quit. Had we not reached out to our upline, and had he not reached down and pulled us up out of it, I promise you we wouldn't be here today, because in our heads we're like, this isn't working for us. We see other people making money, Joseph. Maybe it's just not meant for us. Mm-hmm. And he said, no, you guys got more in you. You got more in you. We got to teach you how to get out of this. We got to teach you how to start making money. And thank God he drove from Salt Lake City to Albuquerque, New Mexico, and he spent a couple days with us at our house, and he was like, let's get you out of this hole. Let's get you out of this hole. And, again, here we are 5.5 years later, just in a total different situation. But if that's you, if you're in this business and you're thinking, man, something's got to give, you've got to put in the work, and you've got to reach out to your upline. I have no other way to say it, because that's what got us out of it.
And that's the truth.
We gotta position ourselves around the right people, the association. Because again, whatever the dream stealers, the naysayers, we got them, y'all got them. Like, right there, there's no lying about that. There's no denying that. And I remember when Verae was explaining that hard part financially that we were going through, couldn't put Christmas, we were selling stuff to pay our mortgage. Like, the money in the bank was paying the leads, but we were selling the dirt bike to pay the mortgage, So, we just, those things, those doubts start setting in your head. And to when I worked in the movies, you had to be, it was a union member, so there's union dues that you had to pay quarterly. And we looked at ourselves, and in this time of frustration and in the low, we were still paying those. And we looked at ourselves, and I asked for, what am I doing? What is this, like a backup plan? Is this supposed to be a backup plan, and it's holding me back? Like, hey, if we fail, it's all right. We'll just go back to the movies. And so I know for some of us out there, we're thinking we got a backup plan. It's like we have to decide, like what we had that day when I said, no, I'm done. Like, I'm not worrying about paying those stupid union dues anymore. We had to burn our ships and know and make that decision that there was no turning back. Yeah, this is scary. Yeah, this is hard. Yeah. And at the same time, there's no other way. Like, there's no, what else do you want me to do? You want me to go back to a job now?
No.
Hell no.
No.
Fuck no. So we got to make that decision. We got to be able to push through that.
Absolutely. And it's just, guys, it's continuing to surround ourselves around the right people and just making decisions, right? So Jake and I, 17 years old, we made a decision that we were going to keep the baby and we were going to do this together. Fast forward 19 years old, we made a decision we were going to have another kid. 20 and 21, I snuck him some alcohol at our wedding. We made a decision that we were going to get married, right? And when we joined the Alliance, we made a decision that we were going to do this business together. So what decision do you need to make? Because we're all feeling great, right? We're all feeling great out of here, but today you need to decide what you're going to do when you get back to make this something possible for your family, right? You have to make a decision, and just always surrounding ourselves around the right people. And I'm embarrassed to admit this was just a couple of weeks ago. I went out and I ate brunch. I had a cousin come in from California with my on my dad's side of the family, and we went to eat brunch. And we've been dreaming big around the Alliance, right? Like, why not us? And we were talking to Andy in Dallas, talking about getting a pool for the kids. I know we've talked with Terry and Tia about that. So Andy was like, let's make this a reality. How can we make this a reality for you and Jake to have a pool within this next year? And so I was talking to my dad about that, and I was like, Jake and I want to get a pool, or we were, maybe thinking, depending on the house, one day maybe we'll buy a house with a pool. And he said, well, what kind of house do you want? And I showed him a picture of it, and he started laughing. He said, why would you buy a house that expensive? That's stupid. He was like, why would you put yourself into debt with something like that? And I looked back at my daughter, who saw me light up because Raina was with us, and her face deflated too. And she's so sweet. She put her hand on my shoulder because she knew how much it meant to me that I'd been dreaming about this pool. She just put her hand on my shoulder, and we got out of the car, and she said, Mom, I know we're going to have a pool.
That's right.
I mean, just talking to your family about that, like, there's dream stealers. And my dad doesn't intend to be a dream stealer. He just doesn't know what he doesn't know. Right? He's looking out for my best interest because he wants to be realistic. He wants me to be realistic and not put myself in any harm's ways, but just being around those types of people, guys, sometimes it's our own family. And it's not because they don't love us. It's because they care about us. They just don't know different. And that's the importance of getting around the Alliance. That's the importance of talking with your upline and them helping breathe life into you and knowing, hey, these things are out there for me too. Right? So let's go through some more pictures.
We got one. So these are our girls now. They're big. Oh, these are our girls now. They're big now. They're big. They're on. Raina's our older one, the one in the glasses. Kata's Jake.
That's an
Jr.
old picture. She's up to here on me now.
Yeah. Grandpa Sam calls Kata Jake Jr. So, but it's been fun, just living life together. This was our most recent trip with them. It's just so much fun when you got the financial resources to just up and go, take a 3-4 day weekend, take them to the beach, take them to do the roller coasters, take them to do all that, and not have to worry about, asking a boss. Or not having the financial means to do so. Like, there's a whole world to see. These girls have just barely scraped the surface, and it's just so exciting to know that the Alliance is going to help show them the rest of the world. But this is what I want us all to remember. We all have a story. Each of you have it. This is just ours. Each and every one of you have a story. Don't let it go unheard. Let's make it a winning story. Let's make those decisions to push through and not allow the dream stealers and the naysayers to pull us back or hold us back.
That's right.
Okay?
Yes.
So one thing, I've been reading this book, and it's been helping me a lot, The Magic of Thinking Big.
Yeah.
And I was actually reading it a couple weeks ago preparing for this talk, and it talks about 3 different groups of people. Mm-hmm. 1, those who surrender completely, those who surrender partially, and those who never surrender. And it talks about, from all sides we've heard, it's foolish to be a dreamer. And that our ideas were impractical, stupid, naive, or foolish. That you've got to have money to go places. The lack determines who gets ahead of you, or you have to have important friends, or that you're too old or you're too young. See, we've all got people telling us these things. So when we go home, and you have this high peak of excitement, and you go home and one of those dream stealers or one of those naysayers start getting into your head, you need to figure out, are you going to be the one who surrenders completely? Are you going to be the one who surrenders partially? Or are you going to be the one that decides to be the one that never surrenders? I want y'all to think about that. We're Jake and Verae. Thank y'all.
Thank you, guys.